You won't believe what just happened to me, and honestly, I'm still shaking thinking about it. My HOA, yes, the homeowners association I thought was there to keep the neighborhood orderly, actually built a full-size swimming pool right on my property. And no, this isn't an exaggeration, a joke, or clickbait. This really happened. It all started one ordinary morning. I was sipping my coffee, watching the sunrise, enjoying a quiet start to the day, when something caught my eye. There was a bright, sparkling blue glint in the corner of my yard. I squinted, thinking it might be a small kiddie pool or some decorative pond. But as I stepped outside to get a closer look, my heart literally stopped. There it was, a massive, luxurious swimming pool, partially sitting on my lawn. Tiles, diving board, pool ladder, and even fancy landscaping around it. And the part that made my blood boil? Part of it was definitely on my property, my land, the land I've cared for and maintained for years. And they just decided to build this monstrosity here without asking me a single question? At first, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it was a mistake. But as I double-checked my property maps, my survey documents, and the official boundaries, there was no mistake. The pool crossed the line. It was theirs in concept, but my land in reality. I felt a rush of disbelief, anger, and confusion all at once. How could the HOA, which is supposed to enforce rules and protect our community, just trample over my rights like this? I couldn't just let it slide. I had to do something. I grabbed my phone and camera, documented every angle of the pool, measured the exact distance from my property line, and started planning how I was going to confront them. I needed to be prepared. I wasn't going to let them talk their way out of this. Later that day, I marched straight to the HOA office, documents in hand, prepared for a battle. When I arrived, I asked to speak with the board members responsible for this project. "Why is there a pool on my property?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice calm but firm. They looked at me as if I was overreacting, smirking slightly. One of them said, "Oh, it's just a community improvement project. We thought it would be good for everyone." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Good for everyone? On my land? I held up my maps, my surveys, and photos of the pool encroaching onto my property and said, "Technically allowed or not, this is trespassing. This is my property, and I'm not letting this go." The smug expressions on their faces slowly faded. I could feel the tension in the room shift. This was no longer a polite discussion. It had become a confrontation. The hours that followed were intense. They tried everything to intimidate me. Warnings about fines, threats of lawsuits, suggestions that I was somehow in the wrong. But I had prepared for this. I calmly presented my evidence, stayed firm, and refused to back down. Every time they tried to deflect or argue, I countered with facts, survey records, property deeds, and even photographs showing the pool on my land. The board members began whispering among themselves. I could see that slowly the realization was sinking in. They had made a huge mistake. It wasn't just a policy error. It was a clear violation of my property rights. At one point, one of the board members tried to appeal to me, saying, "Well, maybe you can compromise? We could move it a little or redesign part of it?" I stared at them incredulously. "No," I said firmly. "My land, my rules. You built this pool here without my permission. You're going to remove it." I could feel my pulse racing, but I knew I was right. They tried to resist for a while, but eventually they agreed. They would remove the pool from my property. The relief and satisfaction I felt in that moment were overwhelming. It wasn't just about the pool. It was about standing up for myself, asserting my rights, and showing that I wasn't someone to be pushed around. Walking back to my yard after the confrontation, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion, exhilaration, and empowerment. My lawn was still intact, my boundaries respected, and the message had been sent. I wouldn't be ignored. But this whole ordeal also reminded me of something important. Even in a quiet suburban neighborhood, you have to stay vigilant. You have to know your property lines, keep documentation handy, and be prepared to defend yourself, even against an entire HOA. Reflecting on the experience, I realize how much I learned. I learned the importance of staying calm but assertive, of knowing your rights, and of never letting intimidation stop you from standing up for yourself. I also learned that property disputes can escalate quickly if you don't act fast. The sense of justice I felt when they finally admitted their mistake was immense, and it was empowering to realize that doing the right thing, staying firm, and presenting the facts can actually make a difference. That day, I didn't just win a battle over a pool. I reclaimed control over my own property and reminded myself that courage and preparation are key in situations like these. So that's what happened when I confronted my HOA after they built a pool on my property. It was stressful, nerve-wracking, and exhausting, but in the end, standing up for myself was absolutely worth it. If you've ever had a crazy HOA situation or a neighbor trying to overstep boundaries, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment below, share your experiences, and let's talk about it. And if you want more unbelievable, jaw-dropping stories like this from my life, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because trust me, the next story is going to be even wilder. And remember, always keep an eye on your backyard. You never know what might show up next.